we did a commercial for Visa, which was, so much fun to do. The thing about Dick was he was so intimidating. How he was a guy that when I was playing the Bears in 1971 in Soldier Field, their first game at the Bears at Soldier Field, Chuck Noll all week long, Butkus, 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 Butkus. And as a young, immature quarterback, I automatically thought, well, I better stare him down and make sure he doesn't make any tackles. So what I did was, like Albert, like the snake and the mongoose, I stared him down and I threw him two of the most beautiful interceptions you have ever laid your eyes on. They were so good that after the game I wanted to go up to him, Michael, and go, were those okay? I didn't throw them too hard, did I? You love me, right? I do say that for his family and his beautiful wife, Helen. That's a sad day for not only them, but of course for the great family.
Nobody warned you about the eyes. The film showed you the tackles, the forced fumbles, the pursuit angles that had no business being that fast on a man that size.
I think the play of the game, and I've always said this, that you have to have a Neanderthal gene. Butkus had two.
It was this focused kind of violence that it brought him a certain kind of joy. And you could see it on his face as he played. He had passion. With his eyes darting left and right.
He also was hard of hearing. He always went after the whistle stopped. He never stopped when the whistle blew.
Dick Butkus was a Superman. He was unbelievable. He just hated people and he just wanted to kill them, kill a quarterback.
The idea is to utterly demoralize, demolish. Butkus's dream was to hit somebody so hard their head flew off.
You studied it all week. You told yourself you were ready. Then Sunday came, you took the handoff. You aimed for the middle. And Dick Butkus was already looking at you like he'd been waiting there his entire life. 9 seasons, a knee that ended it too soon, 27 fumble recoveries, 8 Pro Bowls, and a psychological grip on this league so deep, so personal, that offensive coordinators weren't just designing plays around him. They were designing players around him, teaching running backs how to think differently, how to protect the ball differently, how to mentally prepare for something that film could show you, but never fully explain, because the hits you could prepare for, it was everything else that broke you.
I remember when O.J. Simpson was in the league, I said, what was it like playing against Butkus? And he said, whenever I got the ball, I kept looking around saying to myself, where is he? Where is he? Everybody was terrified.
I would talk to him and accuse him of some of the things, the biting and the gouging at the eyes, and he'll flat out deny it. It was almost like he was in a coma, he was out of himself. He'll flat out deny it. I never did that. I can recall catching a pass, and there was Butkus. During that era, the peace sign was very popular because of the war. And he got me in a headlock and made a little peace sign and commenced to try to gouge my eyes out.
He's always messing around. I come up to get over the ball, and someone had spit on the ball. Well, Butkus is back there giggling, and I tell the official, and the official doesn't do anything about it. And a couple plays later, I come up, and Butkus is giggling again, and he spit on the ball again.
Dick would run up into the line and start growling and just, making noise. And I can remember one time while calling signals, Ed Flanagan was our center saying, "Shut up, Dick, so I can't hear the signals."
Yes, the 1965 NFL draft had 2 generational picks sitting right next to each other. Gale Sayers went 4th overall, running back, future Hall of Famer, one of the most gifted players this league has ever seen. The Bears took Dick Butkus 3rd. Think about that. Chicago looked at 2 legends sitting in the same draft, and they took the linebacker first. They knew Butkus walked into the NFL carrying a reputation that most players spend a decade trying to build. At Illinois, he wasn't just dominant, he was disturbing. Opposing coaches watched his college film and called the Big Ten office, not to complain, just to confirm that what they were seeing was actually legal. It was. Rookie year, Pro Bowl, not as a surprise selection, not as a courtesy nod to a promising young player, as the most terrifying defensive presence the league had seen in years.
When you talk about Bears linebackers, obviously with yourself and Mike Singletary and the passing of Dick Butkus.
Yeah, that hurt.
Were you compared at all to Butkus at any point?
The media, obviously the media in Chicago. So I didn't know much about football in Chicago before I got there. I knew Walter Payton and the '85 Bears, but I didn't know much about football before that. But when I moved to middle linebacker, the media starts not comparing you, but bringing up the tradition, Bill George, Dick Butkus, Mike Singletary. And I was young. I was like, yeah, those guys are great, but I'm 22 years old. I don't know what I'm going to be. Obviously now, as it's gone on, we're all in the Hall of Fame. But I always appreciated Butkus he always called it like he saw it, didn't pull any punches. He was whenever I was around him, he was always so witty and a major smartass. I love that. Like, he just said what he was thinking all the time. I think my second or third year, I helped the guy up off the ground after I tackled him. Oh, bad move by me. He was in the newspaper or the media next week saying that's not okay. You're not supposed to help a guy up after you tackle him. But in my mind, I was like, well, it's not like I'm not going to want to tackle him the next play, so I'll tackle him, help him up, hit him the next play, help him up. Didn't matter to me. It wasn't a big deal, but Dick Butkus did not like that.
I remember Jim Brown, whenever he'd get hit, he made it seem like you crushed him. No.
Oh, the opposite.
Like when he would get up, he'd be so slow getting up.
Okay.
And you'd think, oh, okay. Like, man, they got him. And then they give him the ball. And he'd be like,
it's different, man. Those guys are different, obviously. But yeah, Dick Butkus. The world is definitely a softer place without Dick Butkus in it. that dude was tough, man. He couldn't get away with anything he got away with back in the day right in today's game.
Second year, Pro Bowl again. By year 3, something shifted in how the entire league prepared for Chicago. The offensive coordinators weren't building game plans around the Bears' defense anymore. They were building them around one jersey number, one name, one specific problem that had no clean solution, number 51. The frightening part, he was only getting started, still learning, still discovering exactly how much damage one man could do inside a 60-minute football game. The league had no idea what was about to hit it. Here's what separates good players from legendary ones. Good players make tackles. Legendary players make you not want the ball. Butkus was the second kind. His pursuit angles didn't make sense on film. He'd diagnose a play in the backfield, before the handoff, before the cut, before the ball carrier had committed to a single direction. And he'd already be there, not reacting, already there. Like the outcome was something he'd decided before the snap. Offensive linemen talked about him differently than they talked about other defenders. With other elite players, you had a technique problem, a matchup problem, something a position coach could break down on Monday and correct by Thursday. With Butkus, it was different. He didn't shed blocks, he dismissed people. 300-pound men who'd spent a decade in this league, finding themselves on the ground, genuinely unable to explain the sequence of events that put them there. But none of that was his real weapon. His real weapon was the half second before any of it happened.
I was dead serious. Football was my life. It was like a release for me. I swore that if I was going to die, let it be on the field here.
To watch him on a football field was to watch a man showing everybody how a middle linebacker should play. Everything was very contained. That football field was to him like the chessboard was to Bobby Fischer.
Dick was in such a zone when he played that when he was off the field and came down from the excitement and the level at which he played, he didn't remember a lot of that stuff.
Dick Butkus said before a game, he would pick out somebody on the other sideline and imagine that that person had done something to his family, done something to his mom, so that he could really hate them when the game started.
And that moment where a running back's eyes found number 51 before they found the hole. That involuntary hesitation, not fear exactly, something quieter and more corrosive than fear, that lived in a ball carrier's legs from the first snap and never fully left. Then 1969 arrived. His 5th season, the Bears held opponents to 150 points the entire year. Not per game, the entire year. Offenses weren't just failing to score against Chicago, they were arriving at that stadium already reduced. Yeah, already playing a smaller version of themselves. One man built that atmosphere. There's a pattern that shows up in every single interview. Doesn't matter the position, doesn't matter the era, doesn't matter if the man answering was a Pro Bowler, a journeyman, a Hall of Famer with nothing left to prove. You ask about Butkus, and there's a pause. Not the pause of someone searching for the right word, the pause of someone deciding how much of the truth sounds believable out loud. Because what they experienced the first time they faced him didn't fit neatly into the language that normally describes a football game. Veterans who'd played in championship games, men who'd faced the nastiest defenses this league had produced, they came off that field quieter than they went on. Not hurt, not frustrated, quieter, like something had been recalibrated. Quarterbacks described watching from the backfield as the strangest part. Like they saw the whole picture every snap. Watched their running backs aim for the hole, watched that fraction of a second where the body language changed, where the certainty went out of the run before it even developed. That hesitation had a name. 8 Pro Bowls, 2 Defensive Player of the Year awards, NFL 100th anniversary, all-time team. 50 players across 100 years of professional football. He's on it, and the men who lined up against him will tell you quietly that even that doesn't fully cover it.
Anyone whose name has all those percussive sounds in it, Butkus, is not going to be playing in a tutu. He had the body, he had the name, he had the neck.
It seemed like his face was always like too big for the helmet. It stuck out. And he always had this, I don't know how the heck he did it. I mean, there was always blood trickling down that one side.
He looked like an animal who was going to hurt you bad. And he liked that. He wanted people to think that. He wanted people to know that he was coming.
It's like looking at a Van Gogh as opposed to a Dali. It was flow. It was movement. And when the ball was snapped, he instinctively knew where to go. It was the sixth sense that he had about the game.
He would go almost sideline to sideline. Butkus would almost hurdle himself through the air occasionally to make a tackle, almost like a missile. A Butkus tackle is a classic tackle. It's a textbook type of thing where you drive through the ball carrier and the ball carrier ends up going backwards.
There's a difference between stopping a play and destroying it. Every linebacker in this league stops plays. Read, react, tackle, reset. That's the job. Butkus did all of that and then kept going, past the whistle, past the pile, past the point where most defenders considered the play finished and the next one already beginning. He didn't consider it finished until you felt it in your legs 3 snaps later. The scoreboard meant nothing to him. He bears up 4 touchdowns. Same Butkus. Bears down 3 scores in the fourth quarter of a game that had been over since halftime. Same pursuit, same violence, same complete inability to treat any snap as insignificant. Teammates said watching him play out garbage time was almost unsettling. That committed, that incapable of coasting. 27 career fumble recoveries. To understand what that number means, understand this. Offensive coaches around the league started building specific drills into their Chicago week preparation. Not pass protection adjustments, not route combination changes, ball security drills, dedicated practice time every week before facing the Bears, teaching grown professional athletes how to hold on to a football under pressure. Because if you didn't hold on to it, he was already reaching for it before you hit the ground. Coordinators stopped sleeping on Tuesday nights. Not because they couldn't build a game plan, because every game plan they built had the same unresolvable problem sitting at the center of it. By Butkus' 3rd season, the language in opposing war rooms had changed completely. It wasn't, how do we attack Chicago? It was, how do we keep the football away from number 51? Chip blocking became mandatory on every snap near that middle. Running backs were coached to take outside routes on plays that had no business going outside. A misdirection multiplied. Pre-snap motion designed specifically to move him before the ball was snapped. The middle of that football field, the most essential, irreplaceable territory in the sport, had been condemned. One linebacker made an entire region of the game functionally unusable for as long as he was standing in it. But here's what destroyed coordinators completely. Football has a middle. Every offense, every system, every game plan ever drawn up eventually has to go back inside. There's no version of professional football that survives entirely on the perimeter. And when those plays came back inside, when they inevitably had to, he was already there, every time, without exception, like he'd had the game plan since Monday. Forget the image most people carry of him. The highlights show you the hits. What they don't show you, what no camera ever fully captured, was what happened in his head 3 seconds before any of it, before the snap, before movement, and before a single player on that offense had committed to anything. Butkus already knew. Not suspected. Knew. Teammates described watching film with him as genuinely unsettling.
Because he was big and because he sounded gruff, everybody thought he was rough. And the word animal used to really bother him. You know, so he's a very sensitive person underneath.
I think that he felt intimidated by his own reputation for intimidation. I think that he
felt that people largely misunderstood him.
Butkus was very difficult. It was very difficult to get him to talk. You know, he said, gee, great game, Dick. Thanks. Yeah. The man would not expound on anything outside of answering your question.
Butkus was incomparable. Strange guy, a violent guy. His attitude was not siege mentality, but ramparts mentality. He strode the ramparts. That's what he did behind the line. And he didn't challenge the opposition, he threatened them.
In most people's minds, he is still the most powerful symbol of the violent nature of the game.
People in pro football constantly will use Butkus's name as an adjective almost in talking about how tough a player is, regardless of his position.
He'd stop the tape on a static formation, nothing moving, 11 men just standing, and call the play, not the concept, the specific play, the specific gap, sometimes the specific back getting the ball. Then the tape rolled. He'd be right. He was processing formation, offensive line weight distribution, out of quarterback, eye patterns, halfback heel angle, 4 separate information streams simultaneously, in real time, against offenses that spent the entire week designing ways to hide exactly what he was reading. They rarely succeeded. 22 career interceptions. Middle linebacker, sit with that number for a moment. That belongs to a man who understood where the football was going before the quarterback had fully committed, and arrived there anyway. The hits were the part you saw. The intelligence was the part that made the hits inevitable. The Bears teams around Butkus were not good. Say it plainly, they weren't. Offensively inconsistent. Thin at skill positions. The kind of roster that made opposing coordinators exhale when they checked the schedule. Chicago week was supposed to be manageable. It never was, because number 51 showed up identical, regardless of what surrounded him. Down 20 in the fourth quarter, garbage time in December, as nothing on the line and an empty stadium going through the motions. Same Butkus as the first snap of the most important game of the year. No adjustment for circumstances, no preservation instinct, just that same relentless, suffocating standard that he held himself to when nobody was watching and nothing was at stake. But the Green Bay games were something else entirely. Those weren't football games, they were something older and uglier. 2 franchises that genuinely despised each other, playing out years of mutual hatred every time they shared a field. And Butkus, in the middle of all of it, somehow reaching a register beyond his already terrifying normal. Players on both sidelines described those games differently than they described every other game that season. More physical, more personal, something that stayed with them longer. He didn't need January to write his legend. He wrote it in November, in Green Bay, in the cold. Against the one team that brought something out of him that even his own teammates hadn't seen before. Years after retirement, when the competition is dead and the ego has nothing left to protect, the truth surfaces. It happened with almost every player who faced Butkus for a full season. Not 1 or 2 generous veterans feeling nostalgic, almost universally, running backs, fullbacks, offensive linemen who'd battled him across multiple seasons and multiple years. Some men who built careers on never showing weakness, they all eventually arrived at the same admission. That what they experienced going against number 51 wasn't something they fully understood while it was happening. It took distance, years of distance. That wasn't violence, that wasn't athleticism, that was something he built, deliberately, snap by snap, Sunday by Sunday, against every offense that came to that middle and learned what it cost. You couldn't find it in a box score, you couldn't see it on the stat sheet, but every running back who ever aimed for that middle felt it in their hesitation, in the way their eyes moved wrong for just a fraction of a second. He didn't tackle you, he broke your will, and the moment that happened, the moment that doubt arrived in your body before the football arrived in your hands, the play was already over. He'd already won. If you made it this far, you already know this channel's different. Hit subscribe, because the next name we cover hits just as hard as this one did.
The Butkus family is all a big physical family, and Dick was kind of the skinny runt, being the last of the group, but he developed very quickly.
He wanted to do his talking on the field through his play. We coaches, we hardly even got a hello out of him. He was just very, very focused.
I think he was feeling, for part of his life, inadequate. feeling like, he was on a different playing field with people. He studied and did things in his competitive nature to bring himself up to being at least equal, in many cases surpassing people.